Greetings, my friend. Welcome once again to another edition of Top 10 Worst of Lists, the best of worst of lists. I'm your host for today's profound odyssey, Joaquin Slowly, and what an honor it is to be able to be here for this momentous occasion as we try to leapfrog over the speed bumps of life and gleefully embrace the potential of the unrealized kinetic human energies that roil and boil within us, seeking release to envelop us and encase us in a impenetrable shield of glorious expressiveness, bounteous love for life, waiting for the release of the unblemished soul, ascending to its ultimate potential and stuff. Today's top 10 worst of list is going to be a panty dropper. It's top 10 worst TV sitcoms. Now, this is an arena that is quite ripe for ribald satire, if you'll allow me a indulgence. Jesus, the hair. Oh, not bad. Okay, we can do a little bit of that. We can get it a little puffed out. The hairdressers here, top 10 worst of lists, have the week off of the spending it in Cancun at the top 10 worst of list international convention. Where top 10 worst of list, your favorite resource for top 10 worst ofs, is nominated for its potentially second Triple Sapphire Award for excellence in worst of list compilation and delivery. So, fingers crossed. But anyway, top 10 TV sitcoms. Now, first of all, before we get started, I want to just clear the air. By way of introduction, I am a few tools short of a toolbox, as it were. And therefore, I'm telling you right up front, this one particular episode is going to be rife with accusations from yours truly, and I might be peddling a few minor blemishes, an unburnished collection of factoids and details that, I don't know, could be a little bit outside of what most would consider to be fully accurate. Okay, so I said it. I do my best here, but, hey, there's going to be some few things that could slip through the cracks. I've got ginormous cracks. Trust me. So that's it's on you to do your fact checking, and it's as it should be for everything that you are exposed to in life today. And I do mean everything. Well, anyway, so there's that, and I just want to clear the air. I'm not down with being like one of these partisan hacks. I'm not out to, to do a little sneaky conversion therapy on your attitude or allegiances to various different things that brainwashed you before you even turned on to top 10 worst of lists. So you can go ahead, keep all your prejudicial, hate-mongering nonsense and stuff like that, and just give thanks for having symmetrical hair. It's such a blessing. That's close. Most importantly, however, this is the time on Sprockets when we dance. And by dance, I mean enunciate our commercial sponsors. And from the makers of Lean Cuisine, it's Maybelline Cuisine, light meals with makeup built into them somehow, because you can do your makeup while you eat your lunch. It's Maybelline Cuisine. And a reboot of an old fabulous, one of the icons of white power in all of the cultural mechanisms, the panoply of cultural mechanisms. From the producers of Mayberry RFD comes Mayberry BFD, which I'm not even sure if anybody's going to remember either Mayberry RFD or what BFD means. But trust me, it's funny if you did know what those references referred to. Maybe not funny. Maybe funny is an exaggeration. But I told you a minute ago that some of the things that I say might not necessarily be like completely true or, thoroughly, vigorously vetted for minor league inaccuracies and opinions casually doled out as if they were facts. But anyway, enough of that. We've got Merch Maxing Incorporated. We set up merch tables when invited to a friend's house for a swanky dinner party or other people's special occasions, like weddings and stuff like that, where, you respond to the wedding as your best friend's getting married to some hag, or your jerk, or whatever you want to, get married to some barnyard animal, something like that. And it's like a really fancy wedding down at the Four Seasons, and you're going down there and everything like that. And you bring your own merch table to somebody's wedding. That's Merch Maxing Incorporated will help you get all set up for all that stuff, and even, in some cases, deliver the swag. It's Merch Maxing Incorporated. I don't know, some of this other Midnight Express, when your hash absolutely needs to be there the next day, from the people who brought you Federal Express and the movie Midnight Express. I don't know, man. I can't remember half of the stuff. And coming soon, the producers of Miss Universe contest competition brings you the Miss Parallel Universe competition. We have a bunch of freaky transdimensional space beings and interdimensional robots and stuff. I don't know. Am I supposed to do everything here? From the producers of the movie Mission Impossible comes Missy Impossible, featuring Missy Elliott doing all the Tom Cruise stuff, doing all her own stunts and stuff like that, hanging off the side of a stupid airplane, running. You ever notice that Tom Cruise, it's got to be in like his contract, right, or something like that. Every single Tom Cruise movie has at least one or two scenes of him running his ass off. What is it with Tom Cruise and the running? There's something that it's got to be something that they researched, that they saw in the research, like going, okay, on the numbers, Mr. Cruise. We found that your Q factor goes up by 0.09% every time you run, have a movie scene where you are running your ass off. And Tom Cruise is like, coconut cake for you, coconut cake for you, coconut cake for you. I don't know what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ, I need my meds adjusted. Please, somebody send me a pharmacist that knows what they're doing. And coming up finally, from the producers of Revenge of the Nerds, a movie that's aged so well and has such a positive opinion with today's modern day culture, Revenge of the Nerds. Now comes Montezuma's Revenge of the Nerds, where all the nerds go down to party in Cabo Wabo and pick themselves up a Giardia for their troubles from There was the ice in the tequila. It was the salmon mousse. And the ice in the tequila. It was the ice in the tequila. I didn't mean for that to have a Spanish accent. It kind of sounded like a little bit of Hispanic accent. Spanish. What's the proper word that I can use to explain this? I don't even know how to do it without offending anybody. They should put a website together with, the new modern day stringent parameters within which we can speak and talk and communicate with everybody. I mean, putting up barriers for communication is a real good idea in an era where we have the largest intelligence department, surveillance, Big Brother, whatever you want to call it, and the largest military in history in the hands of openly fascist sociopaths. And we erect more barriers for, us normies to be able to communicate with each other and collaborate with each other to try to protect ourselves from the overall impact of their messianic and pathological machinations. Is anybody else on? Why not put a online website together? These are things you can no longer say to people, and different new pronunciations of, indigenous, or like they tried to just, during the World Cup in 2026, they tried to change the spelling and pronunciation of the name of the country, Turkey. And it's unpronounceable. It's got an umlaut over an I. Who puts an umlaut over an I? What the hell kind of sound is umlaut over an I? Or something. Umlaut over an I? Are you freaking kidding me? With that stuff, we don't have it bad enough that we can't even communicate with each other, because you have to, how many different letters in, LGBTQ, which I think is great, but it's going to just make more people piss off about the privilege that oppressed people seek for themselves. I mean, they deserve some payback after so many years of being oppressed, and have their asses beaten and marginalized and looked down upon and disowned from their families and all the kind of stuff that's been going on for decades upon decades. But, I mean, if you let the media swing the pendulum the other way too fast or too much, it's just going to cause more reactions and more beatdowns. I mean, whatever everybody's doing, there's more hate crimes than ever. There's more beatdowns than ever. It's not working. Try something new. The, the objective of the revolutionary artist is to make the revolution irresistible. Nobody's making the revolution irresistible. In fact, quite the opposite. Innovation is just as important as revolution. Progress. And the more barriers we put up to progress, the worse off we all are. And I'm not saying this to diminish the need of those who've been hurt by the intolerance and bullies of the world. I'm saying it as a caring person that wants to see things better and easier and with less violence. But it's not working. What's being done now is not working. It's making things worse. And of course, we're all being led by the nose by the power apparatus up on the top of the heap, who's doing all these things to fuel the intolerance, including a lot of the things that we think are organically coming from the alt-left or the alt-right. They're just amplifying it as much as they can and stoking the fires with, the only people who can control language are the people who can control the distribution of quote-unquote knowledge. And none of us here on the bottom of the rung of the ladder have any even access to it, let alone the control of the nature of what's included within it. I mean, the when people are protesting, the best coverage that they allow is on the traffic reports to tell people what areas to avoid because there's a protest going on. You don't know who the leaders of the protest are or what their objectives really are. You don't have any opportunity to be able to discuss the issues that are underlying for the protests themselves. All it is on the traffic report, please avoid 4 blocks in downtown surrounding the federal building or something like that because of the protest. And on the traffic report, pooey on the goddamn frickin' ruling elite. Do I have anything else? No, I did. I'm done. It's time for, this is really crucial. This is, I need all you to buckle down. Pay close attention now because this is going to be a rapid fire elucidation of various different tricks of the trade within the third-party outsourced propaganda ministry that we lovingly refer to as the mainstream media. They're doing everything they can to make our lives worse, more pathetic, more robotic. Turn us into, we more closely resemble the methodology of the lives of sheep than of human beings. Because of the sitcom is the worst of their weapons delivery vectors. Because it's the sitcom that we think is the most innocuous thing that we can indulge in. Oh, if I only have some brainless laughs, yes, we'll tune in for one of these sitcoms. Bulldinks! I'm calling Bulldinks on this. The whole sitcom industry is corrupt. It's the main societal thing that they do with the stuff. I don't know how to put it any plainer than that. But anyway, so I've got it. Actually, I wrote out an intro in case I'm forgetting some of the things. I'm going to read it. God damn it. It's going to be read. It's not going to be the usual just spiel that I keep vomiting out of my pie hole. So, by far the most, and this is interesting, the fourth word in this thing is regurgitated. Speaking of vomiting out of my pie hole. But by far the most regurgitated idea on television is that of the white bread sitcom. Yeah, I said it. White bread sitcom. It's what it's all about, man. It's all about white power. Haven't you figured it out? This is where a sitcom is built around the predictable and blasé life of a middle-class, suburbanite ethos, white family, and their endless variety of contrived, trivial, melodramatic tribulations. Now, the white family might not be in white skin. It's still going to be white. I mean, the people who, sort of like they have urban contemporary radio as a division, a style of music radio format. And I'm not making this up. It's urban contemporary radio. And most of them are owned by Clear Channel / iHeartMedia, which is the antithesis of humanity. This is a group of people who are dedicated to the proposition that all of the great unwashed are created useless. And the ruling elite is not only responsible for their eradication and maintaining their irrelevance in perpetuity, but they also need to assert the rubrics and stringent behavioral boundaries of white supremacy. And they own all these urban contemporary radios, which are, all the DJs and everything are primarily black or brown-skinned people. And so they have the pitter-patter or whatever in between songs and whatnot of these DJs and stuff. And they'll say little things. It's nothing revelatory or earth-shattering and whatnot. But people listen to these voices coming from black and brown people who are actually kind of almost like minstrel show types or puppets because they will only be allowed to talk about things. They might be fully scripted, I'm not sure, but certainly the nature, topic, and the scope of what their patter in between songs is all very strictly regulated by the owners of the station. These Clear Channel, the Mays family, if you look into them, these are the people who invented Rush Limbaugh. The iHeartRadio thing is controlled by the same guy who was the founder and controller of MTV, who trashed numerous generations of people in the 80s and whatnot, and turning them all into surface-minded nobodies, and turning music into a fashion show, and all these malevolent objectives disguised as entertainment and stuff. These are the worst of the worst people in the history of everything. Everything. Who've demented our souls and turned us into a bunch of like walking plastic advertising billboards. And so it's like the black and brown DJs will convey the spiel that they've been told what to say and everything like that. The listeners think that these are coming from these are the original ideas of the black DJs themselves. But that's part of how deep they will go in programming us. So we'll listen to the DJs talk, and we think that's them talking, but it's not. It's words that have been given to them by these malefactor white supremacists. And so they're intentionally churning the agenda through the mouths of. That's why it's sort of like a minstrel show / puppeteer show, because what the people are saying, it's like it's almost like, when they had, and they've gotten rid of most of these thankfully, but they had a lot throughout the 90s and early 2000s of white people portraying characters of color in cartoons. It's almost the same type of thing where you think what you're getting is sort of depictions of characters of people of color, but they're actually all written by white people. And so it's just another way of tricking people into falling in line. And we see scene after scene in these sitcoms of stuff exactly like this. A bunch of supposedly wholesome people who just can't help getting involved in mildly distressing antics, which always get solved in a matter of minutes. And as this suburbanite white ethos where, conformity is king and all that kind of stuff, and having completely detached from deeper feelings or sentimentality of a truly organic and honest means of expression. Little do we realize that the people creating these social engineering nightmares are invariably bastards who seek to impose their racist, conservative, materialistic, vapid ethos on the viewers. Okay? Do you see what's at stake here? They did poison me last week, so I'm not 100% avoiding elimination here. But I think they just enjoy seeing me dangle. Because I'm working so hard, sacrificing so much to be able to do these ostensibly fun and urbane, witty top 10 worst of lists, which are really, philosophical screeds on the inequities of our world and how to change it by peaceful means. Which is, take a look at everybody peaceful, trying to change the world by peaceful revolution, which I've been trying to do for 30 years. This is the result of what you get. Something like this, basically. All right, so let's get on with the list, goddammit, shall we? Top 10 worst TV sitcoms, number 10, Full House. Of course Full House is going to be on this list. Are you kidding me? All right, so this is the recipe for making Full House. That the producers, when they were hired, they were told to do such and such within such and such parameters and stuff like that. So this is the recipe. You take an entire jar of mayonnaise, and a half a bag full of white bleached flour, a saccharin, a half a cup of saccharin, some white bread, and mix it all together in a mix master and refrigerate for 3 lifetimes, and then serves 350 million people. I mean, it's just like, what the heck are people? I mean, how do you get turned on to something like that and have it be something you enjoy? I just, it's so horrifying. It's scarier than what's the scariest horror movie that you've ever seen? I don't know. Maybe it depends on, everybody's a little different and stuff like that. You can get like the first Halloween movie. It's got a lot of jump scares and stuff. And, I don't know. I really don't, I'm not a big horror fan, so I couldn't tell you. My favorite horror movie by far of all time is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I just love that movie. And the guy is like, the bald guy is, putting a cigarette lighter to the end of a wire hanger and heating flakes of skin off of the scalp. And they're cooking up human meat-based chili and winning chili contests with human meat chili. But it's not really scary. It's more like kind of horror comedy, right? And then Evil Dead is kind of like that too, like especially the Evil Dead 2. Hilarious, right? Not scary. Funny. Full House to me is horrifying. It's scary as hell. And watching those people and knowing that it's popular, that a lot of people are devoted to it, it's their favorite show, and they call the uncle, what is that guy from the guy he does the Beach Boys stuff, Frankie Faldudo? What's the guy's freaking name? That guy, David Lee Roth? I can't remember his name, but the guy, the heartthrob of the Full House is the uncle. They still call that guy Uncle whatever from Full freaking House. It's been 55 years since the goddamn series went off the air. And then they bring it back. They revived it. Oh, thank God. In these trying times, we've got Fuller House to keep us comfortable and innocuously dead inside. But, I mean, it's like, for me, that's the number one horror production in all of movies/TV history. Sorry. All right, number 10. I'm putting in 2 number 10s here. Because I just want to do it. And if we keep fulfilling expectations and conventional behavior is not getting us anywhere. It's time to start thinking outside the box. So I'm thinking outside the box with 2 number 10s. Number 10/2, it's part 2. Number 10, I don't know, number 10-2. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Okay, there's too many propaganda devices disguised as sitcoms not to go with a second number 10 here. Okay, so just take the journey with me. Jesus Christ, are you that much of a stoic? Brooklyn Nine-Nine there's something wrong with this TV show, right? It's a story about a precinct in Brooklyn, New York that has no real violence associated with any of the crimes that are going. The crimes are like, oh, he ran a illegal lemonade stand out in front of his house with his daughter, and it's stuff like that for like, I don't know, for a half an hour, for how many, 10, 15 years, something. And everybody at the precinct gets along, and they're so funny and witty, and they're always putting pranks on each other and getting up in their, like personal lives and something like that. And it's just like, eat my shorts, you dinks. And it's got like Andy Samberg, who I think is a funny guy, and he's got his idiomatic stuff going on and whatnot. But to put all that sort of like surface-minded, jovial kind of repartee in a police precinct might be good for trying to spin, a first responder in such a way as to portray some sense of humanity and frivolity that doesn't exist in the field, or certainly not to the public at large in terms of their public-facing image. And so divorced from reality, it's an insult. Take those same people, just put them into a regular office, and it's funny without being social engineering. But you put it into a police precinct, all of a sudden it's social engineering. And you got a lot of people of color there who are, in managerial positions. And so this is all intentionally written to be a propaganda piece. And knowledgeable and effective and efficient. And then you've got the old white people who are total clowns and clumsy oafs who should never be hired by anybody, let alone police. But they're harmless. All of them are harmless. None of them are doing anything that smacks of any of the types of reality situations that people are currently associating with, policemen and policing in general. And it's so detached, it just feels so forced that it's going to, I think, have the opposite effect with many people. Again, looking at this stuff like, what is this stupid indoctrinational crap? And so I really think they would have benefited from throwing a couple of characters in there that address some of the issues that people have with first responders and police, and specifically, to give some people some outlets. I mean, the reason why you have people who are going to a knee on the sidelines at sporting events and stuff like that is not solely over the issues themselves. It's in part because that there are no outlets for people to be able to protest against the status quo, to be able to raise red flags and be heard and be seen and have an impact in the world. Like, there are no outlets for people to, talk about police brutality and develop charismatic leaders within those fields that people recognize and turn to in times of crisis for guidance and leadership. And so you have, Colin Kaepernick and others who followed in his steps, followed in his feet too, perhaps, going out there and going out on a limb and being, really in a day and age when you have no social leaders that anybody respects. It makes it especially hard. And it was really difficult for me when Kaepernick was blacklisted after that. And actually, to be honest with you, even more difficult when I saw him sign with Nike for a big, huge endorsement deal. It's like, he made some sort of backroom deal with the NFL, and then all of a sudden Nike shows up with a big, shoe deal or whatever for who knows how many millions. And it just seems like it was all bought and paid for at the end of the day, and that he, gave up and sold out. But how can you really blame any of his actions, really? Because at some point, you got to say it was courageous for him to take a stand, for sure. And it's horrible knowing that our society doesn't allow any mainstream distribution opportunities for people to be able to talk about those ideas without having to go to that extreme and risk their own lives to be able to just talk about issues, relevant issues, important issues that mean things in people's lives who are being desecrated and destroyed without any seeming response to it in the world around us. It's madness. It's insanity. And so, without any outlets to be able to express the fears and the details of the impact of those aggressions is, I don't know, I guess it's intentional at the very least, but it's regrettable in terms of like the real impact on people's lives. And Brooklyn Nine-Nine just sort of ramps up the stakes in that whole conflict. It's like, oh, well, here's like a police show where everybody's like super chill, and for all people of color are shown to be responsible, and in the two highest positions in the precinct are both black men, and one is a black gay man and stuff like that. So it's all contrived. I sniff the presence of Tina Fey here somewhere. She's just like so despicable in my eyes. We'll talk about Tina Fey, I think, in a bit. She's gonna get an earful from this washed out nobody. This will never hear it, but I'll put it out there in the ether and see if it run up the flagpole and see who salutes. Anyway, number 10. Yes, I'm doing a third number 10. What of it? You got a problem with it? Ask for your money back. Number 10-3 is Superstore. Okay, I don't know if you've seen Stupor. It should be called Stupor Store. Or Stupor Sore. Even better. This is a show trying to normalize people who work for Walmart. Because Stupor Store is obviously a knockoff on Walmart. And the people there are shown to be, kind of nice and having a good time and enjoying working for this faceless giant of abusive monolith that's making billions upon billions for the Walton family and Zippo upon Zippo for all of the workers, and putting the warm glow of phoniness and artificial depictions of success and happiness, and make it seem like, oh, what a fun place to work. I want to work for a Walmart. And it's just, that's what the show is. And it's like depicting people as kind of be like, hey, this is a good time. You got America Ferrera, and she's adorable, right? As always. And you're like thinking like, gosh, that maybe it's not as bad as people say it is. And I guarantee that's what the impact of the show is. That people are like, oh, I can see myself working in an environment. Look at all the fun people. Wow. And they go, I'm going to get a job at Walmart. It's like, it's like the biggest recruitment tool for box stores ever. And worse, a lot of other stuff that's also, pretty negative. Just like sort of glossing over the fact that these guys are robber barons who are soaking us for every penny that they can. And you'd still, without Walmart, like a lot of people wouldn't be able to survive. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I mean, because they've eliminated all competition. Any minute now, this greedflation stuff that we saw raise its ugly head post-COVID and rapidly ascending is going to turn into an inexorable force because there's no one independently competing against these box stores because there's so few of them left. And to watch lefties actually protesting Target and trying to get Target shut down. Talk about people being brainwashed into self-destructive behavior. What do you do if you're successful and your boycotts shut down Target? All your money for your immediate needs and stuff like that is going to go to either Walmart or Jeff Bezos. Is that the world that you're shooting for? Because you're shooting yourself in the foot. Speaking of shooting, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Target has done a couple of minor little microaggressions that might have you a little butthurt. Get over it. Or you're going to, have no competition whatsoever. They can set prices whatever they want, and you're going to have to just live with it. When you have to pay $10 for a pouch of tuna. You're not going to go anywhere. Where do you think you're going to go when there's no competition left? They can just do whatever they want to you. Poison, breadsticks and stuff. Welcome to the 7 o'clock news. Today's top leading story, poison breadsticks at Walmart. Nobody cares. Nobody can do anything about it. Next up, the sports. And that's the way life's going to be forever. Is that what you want? 20 minutes of sports on your local news program? Here we come. Good evening. Welcome to the 7 o'clock news. And now, our sportscaster, Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum just does the sports, which it could be fun, actually. Jeff Goldblum. Let's say it wasn't Jeff Goldblum. No, it's not going to be Jeff Goldblum. It's just going to be some faceless ex-jock stuff with CTE kind of bouncing his way through, barely alive, and then at 39th birthday, he shoots himself in the head. It's going to be your life forever. And forever's not going to last very long anyway, because they're going to have the robot attack dogs. They're going to take them to the streets and stuff like that and start eating people who violate curfew. All right, so number 9 of the top 10 finally made it to an actual number 9. Top 10 worst TV sitcoms. Long story short, now this is not one that I was very familiar with until very recently. And I was told about it, and I thought, I was a big fan of these are the producers of BoJack's Horseman. And that was a great show. I loved that show, and a lot of people did, and a lot of friends of mine and stuff. And, but long story short is a totally different horse of a different color. If you don't mind my applying a little pun intended situation here. But it's meant to be, I think, an anti-Jewish hate piece, just a random piece to make everybody bored and hateful in general. I don't know, because it's god awful. But it's like, you see so many TV shows that are, designed to create hate in the world and stuff, and I don't get why they would do this show, because it depicts. They have 13-year-olds smoking pot, which is, that will happen in the real world, but I don't need some corporation like normalizing it as part of their co-opting of our subscription fees into a vastly conservative and destructive agenda of validating that stuff on a impersonalized global level. It's like, okay, if that's going to happen, 13-year-olds partying might happen, but if there's going to be a validation of it, it needs to come within the family or by the doctor or something like that, not by some giant heartless corporation that's just looking to ruin people's lives. Okay? And there's a huge history of showing underage partying in movies and television shows that just is, it's so much so that you have to question whether or not this is like a high priority agenda item. I had the list on before, done it many times, of all the movies that I've seen, like Superbad and Easy A and 21 and Over, and man, so many of them I can't figure out. It was all right, fine, I'm gonna do it. I'll get you the goddamn list, because you're so demanding on the quality, breadth, and scope of top 10 worst of lists. I don't want to let you down. Superbad. Let's look this up here on my cheat sheet. We got Superbad. Oh, here we go. Hollywood movies, and this is going to be a short list and not totally not complete. So this is a list of someone who's clearly outside the parameters of normalcy, and a washout has-been who barely able to walk. So it's woefully incomplete. But I'll give you what I got. Underage sex, drug use, teenage drinking, and all that kind of stuff, validated by corporations. Now, these things, I did a lot of these things. Not all of them, but certainly some. So I don't want to be, like, the argument's going to be like, oh, I'm sure you didn't. A guy who looks like freaking Woodstock generation, like the first guy in line to enter Woodstock, didn't, indulge in any of this stuff. I don't say that, but look at the results of what happened to me. I'm the cautionary tale, the ultimate cautionary tale of what could happen when this stuff is indulged upon. So we don't need corporations validating this stuff. If anything, maybe families can make these decisions amongst themselves. And like I said, within the supervisory care of a doctor or something, I don't know. But certainly not some heartless corporation telling us, like, depicting that as the only pathway to coolness of underage kids. It's indoctrinational. Superbad, Project X, 16 Candles, Easy A, Risky Business, My Suicide, 10 Things I Hate About You, House Party, Eurotrip, Accepted, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, The Binge, Adventureland, Incoming, Teen Wolf, 21 Jump Street, Teen Wolf 2, Can't Hardly Wait, American Pie, Dude, Where's My Car, Porky's, Porky's 2, Porky's Revenge, Booksmart, Breakfast Club, Say Anything, and Dazed and Confused. There are at least 450,000 movies exactly like this. They're doing everything they can to promote partying as being the only pathway to coolness for a young person. That's got to stop. And that's what this, part of this where they got a 13-year-old smoking pot. And then they also have a sister asking her brother for a sperm donation so they can father a child together. And all the characters in this TV show are Jewish. So, I mean, they're all nebbishy and obnoxious and boring, and every character is a totally worthless a-hole jagoff. And it's totally tone deaf to do a show that displays Jews so unpleasantly with anti-Semitism underneath all of this stuff and negativity. It's perhaps worse now than ever because now even the left is many times more intolerant than the right ever was. And it's weird. The hallmark of traditional lefty progressivism was tolerance and, having the big tent and the big umbrella. Not so much anymore. The tiny little umbrella, like the one that the coyote used when a giant boulder was going to fall on his head, like it was going to make much of a difference. That little heap. And they have these little tiny little umbrellas like this. And blammo. So what is this sitcom all about even? What was it's not funny. It depicts characters in an extremely negative light, dehumanizing negative light. Where a sister asking her brother for a sperm donation? Are you serious? I mean, it's all by design. These people are horrible. Just my hair, just the goddamn humidity around here. There we go. There's need a little poof in order to be able to make my emphasis on the correct syllable make sense to people. There we go. Now people will be tuning in going what the hell's wrong with this guy? Which is the exact type of vibe that I'm looking for here. Top 10 worst of list. Number 8 of the top 10 worst sitcoms of all time is a tie for 8th place. I've already got ties and 3 number 10s. That's because sitcoms are a serious conveyance vector for hate mechanisms, for social engineering, because people are just expecting some laughs, some casual laughs and stuff, and sitting back, and their defenses are completely down. Let's get it on. Mills Lane. All right, so part 1 of number 8 is Good Times, and this is so there's like a vein of comedy stylings that depict black characters, which are very rarely depicted on television, even to this day. Well, maybe not this day. They're trying to, make it a little bit more inclusive and whatnot. But back in the day, there weren't any shows at all, hardly, with black main characters. And the one that you get is Good Times. And Good Times shows perpetual underclass environment, the projects in Chicago, and a family that's, sort of stuck in this. And at first it's like, they're making do, but they're acting, they're depicted in funny ways, like we're laughing at them types of ways, especially J.J. Boom Boom Dynamite Walker. It's nice to see some representation on TV, but it's all so negative. And then in, tail end of season 1, season 2, somewhere in there, the father takes off. And so now they've got this family without a father. I mean, it's reinforcing negative stereotypes more than anything. It's not a comedy. It's a tragedy. And the only other one I got for number 8, Part 2, I guess, is Amos and Andy. Now, I don't know that anybody's ever seen this Amos and Andy show. It is mind-boggling levels of racism and it's such a, I mean, it's a really great artifact to analyze the sociological aspects of our culture. And I'm kind of, it's demented, especially when you put it up against the shows that are going to be in line item number 7 here on my list, which I'll give you a little preview of just, because it's really all belongs in the same conversation. Ozzie and Harriet, Father Knows Best, and Leave It to Beaver is a 3-way tie for number 7. And at the same time that these shows, with all this white bread, indoctrinational, plastic, white fence, suburbanite mentality that they're socializing people with on these 3 TV shows, happens at the same time that the Amos and Andy show was being produced. And if you toggle between the 2 shows, you'll see the level of racism in this country in more stark terms than anything that I could do or say to help portray the societal toxins that we've been immersed in for so long. Because, and I'll just give you one example of an episode that it really made a huge impact on me and really, impacted me in a big way. And it's episode of Amos and Andy where Amos, the Kingfish, who's the scam artist, who plays all of the stereotypical characteristics that these casual racists and stuff will describe to all black people as being like a scam artist looking to cheat the system, looking to cheat everybody, even their own friends and family. And he somehow winds up buying a purse that has a gun hidden within it. And he gets the purse for his wife's anniversary or something, birthday or something. And he's going to give it to his wife. And then he brings it home and he sees that there's a gun inside of it. And he's like, oh my God, I got a gun inside. And so he takes it to a pawn shop and tries to pawn it for the money. And he gets arrested and thrown in jail. And then they have the court case, and his lawyer is a black guy and a complete clown. I mean, just depicted as a total farcical, know-nothing jerk. And the judge is white, and the black lawyer is like, and it's like acting super dumb and totally ineffective, and everything like that. And the judge takes pity on Kingfish and says, even though you broke the law by trying to pawn this thing, I'm going to let you off. I've set you free. And you're just looking at this stuff going, what is this crazy garbage? And so, in the course of one episode of Amos and Andy, you got illegal gun trade. You've got one of the main characters getting arrested, being found guilty of committing a crime, but set free through the benevolence of Whitey. And compared to Ozzie, Harriet, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, where the biggest conflict in any of those was like, the daughter character having 2 dates to the prom or something. I mean, it's so polar opposites in terms of the depiction of the cultures that it's sadistic. And I'm going to throw another one in for number 8. I'm going to throw in televised baseball. Because televised baseball is what led Branch Rickey to go to the Negro Leagues and poach Jackie Robinson for the Dodgers and bring him over to the team. It had nothing to do with integrating Major League Baseball. It had everything to do with eliminating the Negro Leagues prior to the contracts being doled out for televised baseball. And they knew it was coming, and they knew it was going to be a gigantic windfall. And they decided, okay, we need to make sure that we never have Negro Leagues on baseball, because all the owners of the Negro Leagues, except I think one, were black people. So black ownership in sports, it's now, 70 years later, and 75 years later, and there's still no black ownership in baseball. There was, prior to Branch Rickey going over to poach Jackie Robinson out of the Negro Leagues, which started a trend after he did that and made it work. All the other ball clubs in the major leagues went and poached all the best players out of the Negro Leagues, and the Negro Leagues imploded in less than a year. That's how destructive the so-called integration of Major League Baseball was to black ownership in sports. There's never been another black owner. I mean, there's, Michael Jordan gets parts of teams and stuff or whatnot. I mean, but that's talking about the exception that proves the rule. There's one guy, I think he owns the Jaguars, who's a person of color. But of all the other sports teams and all other major league sports, there aren't any owners of color. Or if they are, they're just like, partial owners or casual fans with a lot of money to spend and stuff like that. It's not like a thing. It's not like this, back in the early, it was all black except for one. And to compare it with the way that the merger happened, or the integration, if you will, happened in pro football. So they started in 1960. They started the American Football League, which was a competitive league to the NFL, which was the main. And the main thing in football was still kind of college football. Professional football really didn't take off until like in the mid 60s or so. And so rather than poach all the best players from the American Football League and just drive them out of business, the NFL said, well, let's merge. Let's have an AFL league and an NFL league, and we'll play each other once a year for a Super Bowl. And that's how they integrated the rival leagues in football. Well, and there's no offer to integrate the Negro Leagues into Major League Baseball at all. Because the last thing that this is how they think. The last thing that the owners of sports franchises, Major League, being the baseball being the biggest by far of them all at the time, wanted to manipulate the situation because they didn't want to have like a Super Bowl for the equivalent of the World Series between the Negro Leagues and the Major Leagues, because they didn't want to show them as equals, and maybe even superior. And that's what they wanted to avoid more than anything. But certainly they also wanted to avoid having black owners cash in on the fat TV broadcast contracts that they knew were coming any day, any minute now. In fact, if the Negro Leagues had survived another year or two, they would have been able to, cash in easy. So, I mean, this stuff was very timely and planned and aggressively pathological. And it worked like a charm because nobody even thought twice about it. And the Negro Leagues were gone, and black ownership ended in sports basically forever. And that's why, in some cases, I'm sort of basically like pro reparations. But if you're going to do that, you got to take into account the losses in the Jim Crow era from redlining, where they wouldn't sell equitable market with big market potential properties to black people, and they. And certainly the destruction of the Negro Leagues and and the way integration happened in the retail level too, where a lot of small communities scattered throughout urban areas would cater to black customers and stuff like that because it was a more or less opportunity for them to get some level of decent service and not have to, be discriminated against, because a lot of stores wouldn't even allow them in. And when they decided to integrate, it destroyed black ownership in these small little areas and actually created economic deserts, which have never been filled by anybody after that. So it's like a complete horrid, deal that resulted from all that. And it wasn't high-minded stuff that people were finally looking to equitably integrate. It was an integration done in a method that benefited only white people and white businesses and corporations and the robber barons. So where was I? At Amos and Andy, yeah. So, I mean, it's like number 7 of the top 10 worst sitcoms. And this is what sitcoms do. They help perpetuate that hatred, that inequities, and the perception of what people are in communities. And it's so destructive because people just don't expect that that's what's happening behind the scenes. That these people, when they discuss what the plot lines are going to be, they're talking about, well, what will have the most horrid impact on culture and our society. They're not talking about what's the funniest thing to do. And that's the first part of the conversation of how they create scripts is what's going to be the most destructive against people in their lives. And then they get everything else to fit in. So number 7 is Ozzy, Harry, Father, and Best Leave It to Be. I already kind of pretty much described what my beef is with, those particular shows that Elk, Donna Reed, all that stuff. It's all like, showing suburbanite, innocuous, white bread jerk-offs like they're heroes. Like this is so fabulous. Their lives are fabulous, wonderful, funny, pithy, and stuff like that. And it's just a real goddamn shame. Number 6, another tie, and this one is just a tie that I squeezed in because I forgot to add the second one of this number. Number 6, King of Queens. Really, it's here because it's just such a... the characters are so lackluster and conformist. The actual biggest beef I've got with King of Queens is the theme song, which tells you the whole nuts and bolts of what they were really trying to do with the show when they designed it. When it goes, all I want to do with my life is drive right home and sit next to you. It's like they're admitting that the theme of the show is a couple of barren spinster nobodies who are just as conformist as possibly can be and wind up having just a deeply horrifying and empty life. And they portray it as something, like life reaffirming. All I want to do is drive right home and sit right next to you, watch TV with you for the rest of our lives together. And that's happiness. That's depicted as something laudable that they celebrate not only in the themes within the show, but in the theme song as well. All right, the other one on number 6 that I'm pairing up with this, and that's just because I stupidly neglected, is South Park, which is, those guys are about as destructive. Those libertarian jerk-offs, ultra-right-wing pathogens that are supported and groomed by the third-party outsourced propaganda ministry. Without fail, everything that they do is designed to be anti-left. They have, lambasting every liberal that they could possibly get at. And yes, they do hit some right-wing targets, but to a much lesser extent. They don't have a man-bear-pig for, Bush Sr. or something. And they don't have a atomic bomb wedged into, Michelle Bachmann's sniz as they do for Hillary Clinton's sniz. And they don't bash on, Lee Greenwood much, just like they do Barbara Streisand. And it's like, it's just a covert attempt to raise up right-wing agendas and prejudicial interpretations. Well, the depiction of Chef in the final Chef episode, where this is one of the guys who made that first couple of seasons really hum and helped that series take off. He was hysterical. The character was hysterical and funny. I mean, sexually abusive and permissive of, and reinforcing the idea of mixing hardcore sexual topics with children, which is regrettable, but that wasn't, what made the show really hum. It was just the fact that it was so funny. But they made him and his religion, just shredded the guy, and they owed so much of their success to Isaac Hayes and the Chef character he helped create, that it's just watching it going like, well, these guys are truly evil. But where the true evil comes in is, of course, the Cartman character. Now, a lot of people think that, what he does about his anti-Semitic Jew bashing all the time, relentless Jew bashing, is just sort of funny and part and parcel with a character that's drawn and molded to be irrevocably hateful and ignorant. And so, when you have a character that's depicted as hateful and ignorant, doing stuff that's hateful and ignorant, you just sort of can defend it by saying like, oh, well, that character's hateful and ignorant. Why would you believe anything that he has to say or think or take it to heart? But the fact is that it doesn't really always work that way, does it? Most people don't pick up on those types of subtleties. And then on top of it, the more that you just repeat that stuff, it's like the big lie, where it's all of a sudden you start to think, well, maybe, this guy has something, that he's making sense. And a lot of people does reinforce some inclinations for anti-Semitism that so many people carry inside for whatever reason. I mean, society is like built around having people to blame and scapegoat for all the people's problems, which are really the result of the agenda items and policies of the ruling elite haves, the 1% of the 1%, if you will, not immigrants or Jews or people of color or people of differing sexual orientations who are communists, who are always scapegoated in the news. But who owns the news? It's the 1% of the 1%. Who owns Comedy Central? A guy named, when South Park has had its run primarily by Sumner Redstone. Hi, I'm Sumner Redstone. Do you want to come to my country club after the production meeting? We could talk about how to disparage Jews, and that, I mean, that's what's really going on here. These are not bits of entertainment. These are destructive, bileless, horrid acts of social indoctrination. And the South Park people, if you watch Team America, it becomes more than obvious what their real agenda is all about. When they take a half a dozen or more liberal progressives and make them look like various different degrees of hateful, ignorant, belligerent egomaniacs who are out to destroy, who literally risk, the destruction of our country and the world even, in some selfish quest for the ultimate in what they redefine liberal progressivism is all about, which is self-indulgent destruction. And it's not true. And it's not it's the only depiction that they've ever portrayed in any of their productions, and is led by a couple of like total demented psychopaths, Matt Stone and Trey, whatever his name is, are horrid, inhuman monsters. And they're using comedy to clear the path to implant some very destructive and malicious programming into the brains of their, viewers who are just expecting it's going to be like a comedy. But before you know it, after watching a bunch of these things, they've changed. Their attitudes have changed, their mentality has changed, and it's all hateful and targeted towards, the Mr. Garrison character, his big line is, can we get rid of all the Mexicans? And they co-opted that character to portray Trump, so they didn't, in 2016, didn't have to portray Trump in a negative light. So they could have a buffer in the form of Mr. Garrison, so they could blame all the hatefulness and misogyny and misanthropy on the Garrison character. And they had Garrison portraying Trump, and it's pathetic and horrid. Number 5 of the top 10 worst TV sitcoms. I really gotta try to hurry this up here. So That 70s Show. Now, That 70s Show is made up of a bunch of people who turned out to be rotten bastards, right? Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis actively supported Danny Masterson, who's also on that show, after he was convicted of rape. And they wrote letters to the judge saying, hey, go easy on the guy. He's great with the kids and stuff like that. Good friend of ours. And the judge released the letters to the public. And the public's like, and these guys are people who portrayed themselves as being actively assertive, progressive left-wingers, which turns out that they weren't. Ashton Kutcher is like a big-time right-wing, industrialist and investor and stuff with, a self-inflated image that, is somewhat to the, somewhat, close to a godlike type of self-image, it seems like, that he's got of himself. And Mila Kunis is just completely detached from reality. What a bunch of horrid people. You got rapist and Danny Masterson, two people who support him and ask for leniency after he was convicted of rape. Have you ever seen the apology video from Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis? It's the absolute worst, most inhuman thing I've ever witnessed two celebrities do. They all disheveled and their clothes are wrinkled, their hair's not even combed, and they slapdash video saying like, we're sorry that people didn't get how right we are with the defense of our rapist friend. At no point do they apologize to the people who were raped or hurt. They apologize that people didn't get the true industrious and benign level of greatness of each and every one of their actions. And that's what they apologize for. The people didn't get it. So horrible. And just, the whole idea is sort of like, kind of goes along with the Happy Days show, right? Where they're interpreting the 70s as like being, sort of great fun and, carefree and everything like that. And how wonderful having homogeny as much as possible and, have a little bit of partying to make it kind of seem cool and everything like that. And the people glom onto modern day, but it's modern day Happy Days, which is, I don't want to get too far in front of myself, but it just is. Number 4 of the top 10 is another tie. It's because there's so many of these horrible brainwashing agenda items that are disguised as sitcoms. It's the perfect place to nail people right in the heart of their consciousness without them even knowing it. So this is a 3-way tie: Home Improvement, Facts of Life, and Different Strokes. These are all, again, just more examples of indoctrinational normalization of white bread attitudes and mentality as being greater than ever. And while Different Strokes and Facts of Life both have people of color, they're not like, really kind of super inclusive, and they're so surface-minded and saccharine in their nature and so just sugary and syrupy and never in depth or anything like that. And Different Strokes, of course, has, 2 black kids who are completely beholden on the benevolence of a rich white guy who's like, again, I shall save you from your doom. And Home Improvement is, Tim Allen, who's an ultra right-winger. doing stuff that's pure conservative lifestyle indoctrination. Like family unit, got to be white people, all white people at all times. And you got to have the white suburbanite mentality and ethos and all kinds of stuff. It's horrible. And that guy is horrible. And he should be, those are the people who should be rounded up and deported. And it's just another one of these Reagan things like family ties. Oops, number 3 happens to be family ties. And again, the ultra conservative underpinnings of the contextual elements of the show are so obvious here and in Home Improvement, where Michael P. Keaton or whatever his character name was from Michael J. Fox is just running around portraying the yuppiedom as being the ultimate expression of the human condition, and it's just so vacuous and cookie cutter, and you're just watching it like going like, a lot of people were turned on to yuppiedom by this show and by that character. It was powerful back in that day, and it's just a new thing. It's a new twist on an old favorite where, prior to that, like anti-establishment stuff was seen as being cool, and nonconformity was seen as being pretty righteous and stuff. And all of a sudden, now the Reagan Revolution takes place, and now yuppiness and conservatism and stuff like that is shown as being super cool and stuff, and we've never looked back. Just everybody was like, yes, let's reject all the inclusivity. Let's reject all the, sort of organic integration that's going on in the culture. Let's reject all the lessons that were learned about the horrors of conformity in the corporate culture, and just tune in, plug in, and tune out. I mean, it's like, nobody's thinking for themselves anymore. Everybody's just like gobbling up at the corporate teat, and it's never been the same. That's why I insist that we need to analyze the idea of Ronald Wilson Reagan when he came into power, brought Bush Sr. and Cheney and all these malevolent cast-offs from the Nixon administration, these evildoers and murderers and stuff, and brought them along with them. The CIA head under Gerald Ford, Bush Sr., in the driver's seat, and you can't. I don't think you can discount. I'm not like a true believer or stuff like that, but I can't discount the fact that Ronald Wilson Reagan, his 3 names have 6 letters each, so he is the beast whose name was the number 666. And now they've got movies. They had Reagan come out right before the 2024 election, which no doubt was timed to coincide with, right before the election, so to remind people of Dutch, the glory days of the Gipper and all that kind of stuff that Ronald Reagan still, inspired for a lot of those, old school Republicans who didn't fit into the MAGA mold, to keep them under the big tent. And then now you got another movie coming out with Jeff Daniels portraying Ronald Reagan in the Reykjavik talks with Gorbachev for arms reduction treaties, and showing him to be absolutely godlike. And I'm like thinking like, how do people not see through this goddamn indoctrinational bulldink? I just don't get it. Our number 2 of the top 10 worst sitcoms of all time is 30 Rock. Now, 30 Rock, I flirted for a long time with making this number 1. If not for Tracy Morgan, who's like the biggest racist character since the Kingfish from the Amos and Andy days, who just kind of sitting around acting like a complete dummy, like totally zotzed out of his mind. And he's got his entourage, a couple of guys who just sit around and do nothing all the time. It's pure racism. And, there's Tina Fey pushing all the buttons and everything like that. Whatever damaged goods happened to Tina Fey, I'm sorry. Whatever she went through to make her such a hateful, spiteful little river troll creep. But the characters that she's created and stuff like this for this monstrosity are as evil can get. And she knows this and still goes forward with it. But the other character is Alec Baldwin, who's a main vice president, not the main, but one of the vice presidents of the General Electric Corporation, shown as like a caring, gruff, but caring mentor for Tina Fey's character, and for in general for all the creatives in the TV show segment of General Electric. But at the same time, in the real world, General Electric is the number one defense contractor in the country. So they're making the engines and everything like that that are bombing the hell out of brown people throughout all those wars and stuff like that, which, makes them amongst the most evil people in all of history. I'm not exaggerating. And to have a show that depicts them as kind of fun, interesting, compelling characters with a good heart but a gruff exterior it should be looked upon as a hate crime. I'm serious. And the rest of the show doesn't even really matter, because it's all built around the idea of making General Electric seem cool and chill and not responsible for the deaths of millions throughout the Middle East and probably places elsewhere that we don't know about, and the ultra racist characters gravitating around, and Tracy Morgan himself, and it's just it's maddening. And there's nothing against it in terms of like counter programming that says, look, here's a show about Tina Fey, what a hateful, bigoted, racist, complicit demon that she is, who's helping pave the way for a permanent military indoctrination and the extermination of all life on Earth. And I think it might seem like I'm going too hard on this one, but I'm not. I'm holding back. It's the reality of what she is and what this show is much worse than anything I could ever express. When I see this stuff, I'm revolted. I'm nauseated that this is what our culture represents. Our number one of the top 10 worst sitcoms of all time, Happy Days. Happy Days, again, happened in the 1970s when people still had a little bit of spark inside them from the 60s and kind of like thinking like, wouldn't it be great if we could make a comeback? Well, stuff like Happy Days and the artificial resurgence of the career of the Beach Boys and the movie Grease and American Graffiti, all those things combined to whitewash away all of the impact of the 60s and the Cultural Revolution and the music and the liberating feeling and intellects that happened in those times, and replace it with this shroud of milquetoast, white bread, cookie cutter nobodies. And and it says it again. It says it right in the theme song. Where it redefines the 50s as our happy days, and suburbanite Milwaukee that was all white people as being the happiest times. We need to try to get back those happy days. And even in the first season, they had Pat Morita as the owner of the malt shop, little restaurant thing where they all hung out. And then they got rid of him pretty darn quick, didn't they? What did they bring in to replace him? Big, fat, Al, Italian guy. White Italian guy. It's like just as stupid as could possibly be. So, anyway, that's the top 10 worst. I know a lot of you people probably might find me repellent for trying to tell it like it is. I'm just trying to tell it like it is. It's unfiltered, certainly, and but I'm not holding back. And all these things are true, in my opinion, are 100% true. It's a burden that I carry with me. I'm like, I look around me and I don't see anybody else talking about these things. I'm like going like, why aren't we all talking about these things? Anyway, thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Worst of List. What a pleasure it's been to be able to lead this discussion. And I look forward to, maybe the 1.2 or 1.3, I think now, viewers that are allowed to see this screed will take what they've seen and do something about it, talk about it with people, and bring up these issues. And otherwise we're not going to have any. I mean, we really don't have any shot at changing the world and saving the human race from being replaced by the AI robot race. But hey, what the hell? You got to have something to do and try and work towards, to have some sort of guiding lodestar to make sure that you don't fall into the abyss. So anyway, tune in again tomorrow for another new edition of Top 10 Worst Loves, which very likely might be Top 10 Worst Occasions to do a mixtape for your dominatrix. All right, well, again, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the change I want to see in the world. And anyway, we've got a big thing everyone.